What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Tflip Show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. These episodes are flying by. It's an absolute blast, and the support we're getting from video to video, episode to episode is downright incredible. So thank you guys very much. I want to open with that, and thank you guys. Fun episode today. If you watched episode 8, we'll tag it above. You'll see a little pop-up come up for episode 8 with Rob Moore. We talked about Rob and his journey with being a politician running for Los Gatos Town Council. He mentioned a lot about what foundations he is part of. One of them being was the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation. He talked about heart health and all that. Well, Rob was the tip of the iceberg. He gave us a lot of information. We're joined with the person who has found the foundation, created foundation, and put all this into it and educated Rob on all of it and so much more. So I'm joined today by Jen Sarmento. Jen, how you doing down there?
Good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Hey, well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited for this episode and hear all that you have to tell us. So I want to just start with you introducing yourself. Let people know who you are and why we're here.
Sure. So I'm Jennifer Sarmento. I'm the executive director of the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, but I'm also Kyle's mom. So we started this foundation in 2018 in his honor. So
for the people that don't know, so I'll start by saying, Kyle was a friend of mine growing up. I met him as early as kindergarten.
Yep.
I'm almost certain.
Long time ago.
Long time ago. So I met Kyle at a very, very young age, became friends with him. And sadly, when Kyle was 19 years old, correct me if I'm wrong.
He was 1 month shy of his 19th birthday.
One month shy of 19, he passed away to sudden cardiac arrest.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So very sudden thing, horrible thing. But with that happening, it sparked what you've created here with the foundation. And we'll get into it, obviously, but just to be right at the forefront, the incredible, incredible things that you've done already.
Thank you.
So how long has the foundation been going?
Well, gosh. We are officially a foundation in like May of 2018, but I knew early on that I wanted to do something. When I knew that Kyle wasn't going to survive his sudden cardiac arrest, I knew early on that I wanted to do something for him. Didn't know what that meant, but once I found out what I know now about cardiac arrest, that was the trigger and was like, that's what this is going to be about, and bringing awareness to it. So pretty soon after he passed, we kind of started working on getting the foundation started. So almost 4.5 years now. That's
incredible. I can't even begin to imagine, just to be so forward with it, is that what was going through your mind? I mean, with that happening, with Kyle passing, but then it makes perfect sense. You're like, okay, I need to do something with this, knowing Kyle and how he was very motivated, hardworking guy, get stuff done right. And always and that's one thing I will say is that he took care of others, always was looking out for other people. And it's obvious where he got it from, right? As we see here.
Yeah.
So you said it was just in that moment that you realized shortly after his passing, you said, okay, I need to do something with this. What went into, I guess we'll say, the studying, into saying, okay, how do I educate? What'd you do to educate yourself? Let's word it like that.
Well, when this happened to Kyle, I didn't know that was even a possibility of sudden cardiac arrest. I didn't even know that even could happen to somebody young and healthy. And so I thought the doctors had to be wrong. And then when I Googled it, literally all these things started coming up, and I was like, how did I not know this? So I just started reading up on a lot of things, and I found some other organizations throughout the country. There's a national organization called Parent Heart Watch that is specifically for families and survivors of sudden cardiac arrest, in youth specifically. So I got a lot of information from there, and I'm still learning. I mean, it's something that every day I'm learning something new about it. But for me, I just knew that if I didn't know anything about it, there were so many other parents out there that didn't know, and I just had to share what I know with everybody. So I know more about the heart than I ever thought I would, for sure.
Right.
But it just for me, it helped motivate me to put my grief somewhere into the foundation. And like so many parents out there, I was super involved in Kyle's life and his medical care and all that. So I thought I was doing all the right things, and to find out that there were other things that could have possibly saved him just motivates me. So
right.
Yeah.
When it might be kind of, I guess, a obvious question, but just to be clear, it was entirely unknown with Kyle's health when he passed that there's anything wrong with him as far as heart health went, right?
Yep.
And so that what goes into this whole thing. From my understanding, when Rob was talking about it, I guess the overall title of it is, sudden cardiac arrest, but that could be a number of sicknesses and diseases that goes into it, right?
Right. Well, so, people always say heart attack. Well, heart attack and sudden cardiac arrest are two completely different things, which I didn't know that until this happened. So a heart attack is usually, somebody will say, I think I'm having a heart attack. Their chest gets tight, those types of things. And so a sudden cardiac arrest is just that. It's sudden. Your heart suddenly stops beating. So it can be a structural issue. It can be electrical issue. So a heart attack can create a cardiac arrest, but cardiac arrest is not the same as a heart attack. So, but heart attack is just kind of the word that's used for everybody. But that's completely different things. Usually a heart attack is usually like your arteries are clogged by something, or, I'm not going to give my age, but people my age, take cholesterol medicines and other things to help prevent those, blockages from happening. But there was nothing, especially the day that it happened, that would foresee what was going to happen to him. So
when you found this foundation, did you expect anywhere near the traction that it has gained to this point?
No, not at all. I mean, I was hopeful that we were just going to have this little foundation and, do some screenings, donate some things. And it's even with the pandemic, we slowed down for a little while, but then as soon as things kind of open back up, we just kind of start going like crazy again. So, I never thought at all that it would be where it is, and it's continuing to grow. So,
I mean, have you been on the local news, twice now?
Yeah.
Been on the news twice, multiple fundraiser golf tournaments, countless screenings all over. I mean, this is just, I know off the top of my head that through hearing through whether it's social media or I learned a lot at the recent golf tournament I went to and stuff like that. That, I mean, you are doing incredible things. Yeah. And I mean, it feels like the sky's the limit with what you're doing and educating others.
Yeah, for sure.
And so let's do this. Is that, what do you think is kind of next, I guess we would say, so you're kind of, what's a big goal for you that you would like to achieve?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest ones we just got done was, bringing the Campbell Union High School District on to require athletes to be screened, the 9th and 11th grade athletes to be screened, which it's the first in the state to be a public district to require it. So that was huge. That was a big one. And got some great help from Rob, your previous person who was here. But and so I think probably doing more of that, bringing more school districts on. I know there's some other foundations in our state that are trying to get some legislation passed. It's hit some roadblocks, so I don't know when that might happen. But, just getting it to be where it's just part of our children's standard care, right? Yeah. That they don't have to come to one of my screens. My goal is to be eventually out of work of doing this, because I want it to be where kids go to the doctor and they get a screening, or it's just part of their, pre-participation physicals or their annual physicals. So, my goal eventually is to work myself out of a job of doing the foundation. I mean, ideally, right? But, that I don't know how long that is. So I will continue doing this and along with our awesome team and until that happens. So
something that I thought was absurd that, again, Rob mentioned, because there's a lot of things I didn't know. You think you know about your heart and this and that, but you really don't. And he told me a couple things that I found rather shocking, or even as far to say as absurd. Is one of the things being is right off the forefront, obviously, as you mentioned, is that it's not required for athletes to have that checked in the pre-participation. You have to do your normal physical, make sure you, I guess other parts of your body, yet I would argue your heart's the most important thing, is healthy, but except that, I played football, the same thing, had to go get a physical, but they don't check your heart. So is there a known reason why? Is it just something that they kind of shrugged their shoulders to? Or in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple theories that it's still considered rare, right? That this is rare what happens. I will tell you that, in fact, it is not. It's not rare to me because it happened to my family, but the amount of people that I've met and the stories I've heard in the last 4.5 years, I get probably an email or a phone call once every couple weeks from somebody that knew somebody, or an email. So it's breaking that stigma that it's rare. And so a lot of that comes from the medical community, and they don't want to screen healthy kids. So
why wouldn't they want to screen healthy kids?
So I have a couple theories. So one is insurance, right? Insurance may not cover it. They think that there's some false positives possibly, which I will tell you that the machines we use are very low false positives. That but I don't know. It's a delicate conversation because we need the medical community to be a part of what we're doing, but I also don't want to upset them by saying they're part of the problem. But I think it's an insurance issue for sure, and I think it all really comes down to money, unfortunately, right? But people my age or women, at a certain age, we have to get certain screenings, right? And even though, like, say, for example, like breast cancer, I'm not at a high risk for breast cancer, but I'm still recommended to get one, right? So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, even if you're not at a risk for it, you should still get screened for it just to make sure you're okay. So I think it's just breaking that stigma of it. And I don't know why. I don't know, and it's frustrating. The other thing is that there's also some pushback from some other larger organizations, specifically, and so there's some places that people that listen to those larger organizations than a little mom and pop foundation like mine that's grieving my son. So it's hard. It's a battle all the time.
Yeah.
But then you get these amazing doctors who are part of what we're doing and they believe in what we're doing. And there's doctors all over the country that 100% support these screenings. So it's an uphill battle, but I'm determined to keep battling it. So
I bet. Sure sounds like it. So you mentioned the doctors across the country that support these screenings. I was curious that you perfectly segued into this. Is that, what about, do you have any doctors that you refer to personally to kind of educate yourself if you have a question, or is it kind of a Google thing? How does that go?
So we've been really lucky, again, with that national organization I mentioned before, Parent Heart Watch. There's some doctors that are involved in there, and they're a great wealth of information. Excuse me. And we also have some doctors here that help us. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
We have some doctors that help us. And so we have like a sports medicine doctor who is part of our foundation that is a great wealth of information. So there's other foundations that have been doing this a lot longer than we have, who I could call up any time of the day and be like, hey, I need your opinion on something, and they would help. So there's a really wonderful community of people in the sudden cardiac arrest community that we're a part of, that I definitely can go to at any point and ask a medical question or, throw something off of somebody. I mean, for example, the district screens we're doing, we saw it happening in Florida. They were doing this in Florida, and we took that and said, well, if they're doing that in Florida, we can do that here.
Yeah.
And so pick their brain and, a foundation in Florida, on how to do it and what they were doing. And we just kind of replicated some of it here. So without all that, I definitely don't think we'd be growing like we are either without that community of people.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's pretty neat. But then on the contrary, something Rob mentioned to me with these doctors and whatnot, and I'm sure my guess would be that it comes down to insurance and money, but he mentioned how, for example, Kaiser won't do these heart screenings if you ask. You have to be showing symptoms, unless I misunderstood. Is that true?
Well, yeah. So so that's the other issue, right? They think, well, you haven't complained of any heart related issues, so why would we screen you? But many kids that have sudden cardiac arrest, their first symptom is cardiac arrest. Right. So they're not going to have any symptoms. Kyle had some symptoms a couple years beforehand, which I didn't know at the time was a symptom. He'd fainted after soccer practice and came home and fainted in our living room. And we took him to the emergency room, and they said he was dehydrated and sent us on his way. We followed up with his pediatrician. They signed him off. He was back on the soccer field within a few days, and then nothing ever happened. And then when he was in the ICU, I just happened to mention that to the doctor. They were asking me about his medical history and stuff. And I said, well, yeah, he fainted a couple of years ago. And she was like, really? And I said, yeah. And then I found out that's actually one of the number one symptoms of a possible heart-related issue. But it was never checked. So, it's that's part of the problem, right? Is because a lot of kids don't have symptoms, or kids don't speak up when they maybe feel something, or they think it's normal. And so, yeah, they aren't going to screen somebody that doesn't maybe have a family history of it or known family history of it, or the kids haven't had any symptoms of whatsoever. So it's hard to get them to do that as well.
I know, and why do the hospitals almost make it difficult? It seems like, again, I don't know. And I'm sorry to put you in a position if you don't have an answer.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's difficult. And again, I don't blame the hospital. They were doing their job, right? I mean, the emergency rooms are hectic and crazy, and a lot of people coming in and out, and they see a 16-year-old kid who seems fine otherwise, and so why would they do it? So I mean, there's no blame in like them not. I take more of the blame. I'm his mother. I know him better than anybody, and so I take more of the blame of not identifying it, right? So,
but if you don't know, because that's something.
Yeah, if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's something Rob and I talked about is that it's one of these things that it's as far as human beings and our lifestyles and being healthy. Oh, make sure you eat right, exercise, this and that, all these things. But it feels like it's not ever, if enough, talked about. Your heart health, checking out your heart, make sure this. I mean, that's your ticker. You got to make sure that thing's working.
Yeah,
and it's not talked about. So you mentioned that as if you don't know, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I'm just curious and just so intrigued by the fact that it's not talked about more, and doctors don't do more and say and offer these things. It seems unless you bring it up. It seems.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, that's probably another whole show in itself of trying to figure out that one, right?
All these what ifs.
It's always the what ifs. It's always, I mean, the doctors, they're going by what they know and but what I've learned is, wonderful doctors but still they're making an educated guess, right? At the end of the day, you only know what you know, and your heart, if you don't speak up about anything. I mean, Kyle could have had some symptoms and maybe he didn't speak up about it. I don't know. Right. And I'll never know that. So, we encourage people just to even talk to your kids about symptoms that they're having, or, racing heart, or, fatigue and those types of things. So I think it's working with the medical field, but also, just educating parents to talk to your kids and educate kids that it's okay to speak up. So I think it's both sides, right? So then hopefully you eventually get them to come together and work together on it. So
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we talked about kind of I mentioned it, your health and lifestyle and whatnot. Do you think with your overall heart health, is there, in relating to sudden cardiac arrest, is there a certain lifestyle to help prevent those kind of things, or is it just lucky, unlucky, I guess, for lack of a better word?
I mean, at least within youth, Kyle was one of the healthiest kids I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked out all the time. I mean, he was 18, I mean, I know he,
yeah.
But he took care of himself. He worked out, he did all the right things, and, that still happened to him. And so there's things that no matter what you do, right, like a structural issue or electrical issue, there's no lifestyle change that's going to fix that, right, as opposed to like a heart attack, or they tell you to eat right and that kind of stuff to avoid a heart attack. But cardiac arrest is different. So especially in youth, there's not really a lifestyle change, right, that you can do. It's
more so I guess we'll say preventive maintenance, if that's not the right word.
Yeah, or just I don't know about preventative maintenance, but just listening to your body, right? Yeah. Listening to, that doesn't feel right, or I don't know if that's right. Let me speak up about it.
Right.
And so yeah. And kids think, well, I'm healthy. I'm doing these things again that we're all told that we're supposed to do, and so why would there be something wrong with my heart?
Right.
So yeah.
What challenges or conflicts have you faced along the way at the foundation? Because is it something where this foundation has grown on its own, where just people realize how important this is, or what does it come down to with getting this out there and your journey with this?
Well, I'm very determined, for one.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we always get some pushback, right? And at first, at the beginning, we would get very frustrated. And my husband and I finally said, you know what? We might have been those same people. We might have been those same parents had that not happened to Kyle, right? Mm-hmm. They don't know what they don't know. They think their kid's fine. They're listening to their doctor saying your kid's fine. They don't need that screening. But then we have 20 parents say, I had no idea I didn't even know anything about this. Thank you for sharing that with me. And so those are the ones that keep kind of pushing us, and the kids that we've identified, right? And helped. And so that's what kind of motivates me. So all the negative ones, I don't let those bother me anymore. And I just keep pushing forward because I know out of one of those, there's 30 more people who are thankful for what we're doing and appreciate what we're doing. And so those are the people that I keep pushing for. So.
And so when you say, I guess the negative stuff, or, you know, that just basically something that you're not looking for, is it just parents telling you like, oh, you don't agree, they think you're full of it, or
yeah,
sorry to be so blunt, but
we get a lot of different pushback, you know, during the pandemic, or, you know, we're still kind of in it, but at the height of it, you know, when the vaccines were coming out, we were getting a lot of pushback with people saying, oh, you're only doing this because the vaccines cause heart-related issues. It's like, no, you know. So, you know, it's a little bit of conspiracy things of people thinking we were doing this. And it's like, my son passed before this all happened. Right. So that has nothing to do with it. So you get some of that pushback. And you just get some parents who go, well, I take my kid to the doctor every year, every 6 months. And so their doctor says they're fine. And I trust my doctor. And so I'm not going to do that. And that's just crazy. So, you know, and again, I can't help those people change their mind. Right. And so, and I just decide that I'm not going to, entertain, go, okay, you know, at the end of the day, a parent has to make their decision for their children, right? I haven't directly had any doctors come say anything to me about it. I have heard some feedback from parents that have come to our screenings who've gone to follow up with their doctor, some pushback, but I've never had any doctors directly to me say anything. But, you know, yeah, I try to avoid that negativity and just keep moving forward.
Because ultimately it doesn't affect you, like you said.
No, I can only help who wants to be helped, right? And whoever wants the information will take the information, and who doesn't want it won't take it, and that's okay. I can only keep moving forward, and like I said, helping the people that want the information that I provide and the services that we provide. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
And regarding heart health, you've talked about how much you've learned, and you're still learning even to this date, you know.
Yeah.
What's one thing, if you could name it off the top of your head, that shocked you when you learned it regarding heart health, or anything under the category that most people wouldn't know about otherwise?
Gosh, there's a bunch, but the first one that comes to mind is, you know, we're talking about, you know, physicals and that kind of stuff. So a stethoscope, right, that's used at every doctor's appointment you ever go to, right, to listen to your heart.
Yep.
Misses about 85% of the issues that cause cardiac arrest.
What?
Yeah.
85%?
Yeah. And this is a crazy one, especially because we live in Silicon Valley. This one blows my mind every time, the first time I heard it. A stethoscope is 200-year-old technology. We have not changed a stethoscope technology in 200 years. So my great-grandparents used a stethoscope that was used on me and my children. So that blows my mind, you know, especially being in the middle of high-tech country where we live.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any work being done to improve that. So, you know, people think, oh, well, my kid's heart is listened to through a stethoscope. Well, that misses most of the issues. So that one really, really shocked me. Yeah. Because I was like, how was this missed? And well, obviously it was missed because the tools that to identify it were never used on Kyle. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one to
Even
me.
with our modern science and technology, and on top of that, the cherry on top, like you said, where we live. I mean, we're literally in tech central with so much knowledge and feedback. It's like, and thinking about it, I guess, not only, you know, you mentioned 85% misses that, and being 200 years old. I mean, I feel like there's so much room for error there, because especially it comes down to the user too. If the doctor's listening for the right thing, it's absurd. I mean, that's crazy. So so I want to, you know, I guess ask about what you did in the moment after Kyle passed. What got you through it? I guess I should say. I mean, that's a really hard question. But
I don't think you ever get through it. I think it's something that you're always going. It's part of who I am now.
Yeah.
But the foundation has definitely provided me an outlet for my grief. You know, as a parent, you have what I call your energy that you put towards your children, right? Your mom has for you and your sisters, right? Sure. And so I have my energy that I put towards Kyle and his sister Allison. And so when that suddenly happened, I had nowhere to put that energy of Kyle's. And so that's the foundation for me. It represents Kyle and everything that he is. And so that's just where I put that energy. And so that's what's helped me manage my grief. I mean, and I went through a lot of grief counseling. I did 2 years of grief counseling, and talk to a lot of people, but I mean, I still have my days where it's super difficult, and
Sure.
or days where I'm like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just tired. Well, I'm tired, and why am I tasked to do this? And then you meet a family who's like, you know, they got identified or are so thankful for what we're doing, and then it just remotivates me again. But there's times still where I can't believe this is my life. You know, that he's no longer here with me physically, and so it's a lifelong journey. It's definitely not something. It's much different grief than, you know, I've lost my father, I've lost friends, I've lost other family members, but losing a child is much different because not everybody experiences it. So it's a lifelong journey for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say I can only imagine, but I can't. I truthfully can't, and because those words don't make sense and they don't apply to that situation because it's something no one wants to even imagine and think about, and can't, you just can't put yourself in those shoes. And the strength that you have is incredible and remarkable.
Thank you.
It's awesome what you've done, and the people that rallied around you here for this foundation. So you mentioned Allison, who's Kyle's sister, your daughter. What role does Allison play in the foundation for?
So she's on the board with us, and she helps quite a bit. You know, she's in Colorado going to school, so it's a little bit harder for her, but she comes out as much as she can. And even today I was emailing her some stuff. I'm like, hey, I want your feedback on stuff. So she, you know, tries to be as involved as she can. And I think for her too, it's an outlet for, you know, her brother, you know, he was her big brother, and she, before he passed, didn't know a life without him. So I think for her and she sees what we're doing in the community and stuff. So it's definitely an outlet for her as well. But she's very active in what we're doing. And when she graduates next year, I think she's going to be even more involved. But yeah, she tries to do as much as she can.
What is she doing major-wise? I only ask because I'm curious. Is there anything related to what you're doing here at the foundation?
Well, she's a health and exercise science major at Colorado State.
Okay.
She originally wanted to be an athletic trainer, like work for she's a big sports fan, and then wanted to do that. So decided that probably wasn't the path, thought about nursing. So she's still trying to figure it out, but I definitely see her going into some type of medical related, either like a medical company, or, you know, she wants to definitely give back. And she has seen, you know, what we have done. So I think in some aspects she'll be doing that, but, you know, who knows what that'll be. But I'm pretty proud of her. So she's, I think, going to be doing something pretty awesome when she graduates. Don't know what that is yet, but
right. Yeah.
We were just having that conversation today on the phone, actually, like what she's going to be doing after graduation. So
that's awesome. Do you think that just this whole thing from Kyle passing, the foundation, all this has kind of almost directed her, do you think, or motivated her or shown interest? Like, okay, this is something I want to do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think she knows eventually she'll be taking over the reins of it at some point.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning, I think when he passed, it was very overwhelming for her.
Yeah.
She had a really hard time, and she didn't really want anything to do with what we were doing at the very beginning, right? She just had her own grief to deal with, and so we gave her the space. And I think once she saw what we were doing and the impact it could have, she's just fully embraced it and is excited to do whatever she can. Like, she's coming out. We're doing a big screening in Sacramento next weekend, and she's flying out just for the weekend to come help with the screening. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I definitely think, I do think, you know, losing her brother has changed her path in some way. You know, she was only 16, you know, when it happened. So she was a junior in high school. I mean, it's a big loss like that, suddenly like that. There's no way for it not to impact your life path in some way. So I do definitely think that it has changed her perspective on life and her path of what she wants to do, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to backtrack a little bit, because we mentioned about the schools and getting involved with the districts, right? What does it take to get through the front door? Let's say a district that has no clue what, you know, all this is, right?
Yeah.
Where it's awesome, where you've what feels like taken over Campbell Union High School District. But what does it take to get to that front door of that district that has no idea who you are, what you're doing, what this is about?
Yeah, well, I think for us, we got very lucky, right? I mean, we've been super involved. We've been doing community screenings at the district already, through the district. We did one at Lee. We did 2 at Lee. Did one at Branham. We did one at Westmont. And I think having, you know, Miss Butler, who was the former principal at Lee, having her support, and then having a couple other people that were at Lee High School, their support, now work at the district, we kind of had that in that way. So it did make it easier for us to get in the front door. And the district had already seen the impact of the community screenings that we were doing. And the district has lost, including Kyle, 6 former students from cardiac arrest.
From the same thing?
Yeah, from sudden cardiac arrest, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so there's been 3, including Kyle, from Lee, and 3 from Branham. And then, and that's just the 6 I know of. And I'm sure the other 3 schools have lost some too. But so they had those numbers too. And so seeing that we'd already identified some kids at our community screenings that were held at their schools, and realizing, once all the information I shared with them, kind of what I've shared with a little bit today, they were like, yes, let's get on board. And I shared what, was happening in other states. This is the impact it's having. This is what your district could do for your students. So I would say it wasn't a hard sell because they'd already had experience with us. But because of that, we now have other districts reaching out to us to possibly bring it to them too. So we have taken over Campbell Union High School District, as you put it. But, we have other districts reaching out. And so our goal is to eventually be doing this all over the South Bay eventually, to just be part of every high school kid's participation in sports. So,
yeah. I love your outlook of just, one district at a time, local here.
Yeah.
Do you have any, if I'm going to get you outside of that view, any intentions or hopes to get statewide, if not nationwide, if you could at some point?
Oh gosh.
And that's a really big outlook. I understand.
Yeah, I'd have to have a lot more money coming in and a lot more people helping me. Well, I mean, probably I would say more throughout the state, but there are some awesome foundations already doing what we're doing. There's an awesome one down in San Diego called Eric Prada Save a Life. They've been doing this since like 2010. There's another one called Via Heart Project that's based out of San Francisco. So there are other foundations in our state doing what we're doing.'re just the only ones here in the South Bay and Bay Area. The Via Heart Project does a lot of like Peninsula and other stuff. But so we've partnered with them on, hopefully getting some of this state legislation eventually done. But yeah, I mean, we're going to Sacramento next weekend, and we're definitely open to expanding, going beyond where we are. We're talking about possibly doing a screening in Colorado. Allison's trying to get that all set up. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we go national, but expanding outside of the South Bay for sure.
What do the partnerships look like? How does that work? Because I was going to ask that, and you answered it before I could ask it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So how does that work? The partnerships?
The partnerships with the other foundations?
Yes.
Well, so one is just, we ping, the Eric Prada Save a Life Foundation in San Diego has been a great mentor for us of how to kind of set this up, right? So when we started, we went to them a lot and said, how do we do this? But just partnering up information, sharing information with each other. We've tried to be a part of the state legislation that they just recently tried to get passed. Or EP Save Life got some documentation required for parents to sign. And so, I contacted them and I'm like, where's that documentation, and made sure that our district had the updated ones for the kids. So it's little things. It's not huge partnerships, but it's a lot of mentorship and just a lot of collaboration and work and just sharing information and best practices kinds of things that we do with each other. Via Heart Project, when we very first started, they were doing screenings, and Mike and I would go volunteer just to see what exactly was a screening. And we took a lot of what we do now from their screenings and just tweaked it to work what works best for us. So, without any of those foundations here in our state, even, I don't think we would be doing what we're doing because they had the blueprint of how to do it. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
And how do you go about growing your team, your people within your foundation?
Yeah.
Because I think Rob mentioned it, I think, just in general, not just Kyle J. Taylor, but when you hear the word volunteer, people think for a second like, oh, that's not something I want to do, right?
Yeah,
at the end of the day, people think about their time. They want to make money. But that's not the case, So how do you, I guess, for people who don't know you and don't know the story, get them involved?
Well, we got really lucky. So a lot of Kyle's friends just came to us. I mean, most of our team, besides Mike and Allison and myself, are Kyle's friends. Mm-hmm. So they came to us and said, we want to do more. We want to get involved in what you guys are doing. They were obviously very impacted with his passing, and so they wanted to give back. And so all of them all kind of bring their own unique skill set. Like Rob is very much in the political side. And so he's helped me quite a bit with, with the school district stuff that we've been doing, or, helped me understand some of the state legislation stuff and, how things work. And, we have Shun Kato, who's on there, and he's been so passionate. He started a club down in Orange County at Chapman University in honor of Kyle. So they all have their own kind of unique skill sets, but they also bring their passion, because they don't ever want to see another friend lose their friend like they did to Kyle. So that it kind of happened organically. We didn't really have to go recruit anybody. They just kind of came to us, and we were like, okay, you're going to regret offering to help. But no, they don't. No. They love it, and they have been so passionate about it. Jared King's part of it. Yeah. Kyle Archibald, Rob's girlfriend Kylie, and Adam Cherney. So, I don't want to leave anybody out. So, so they're all part of it, and they all have helped tremendously. I know for sure we wouldn't be doing how big we are now without any of their help. So
I love, just for me, I'm sitting here smiling, hearing all those names, not only because of they'll help me, but these are names I've known what feels like all my life. And it's knowing how genuine and great all those people are, and on top of that, doing what they're doing makes me so happy. It's just such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, it's really cool, because they all got obviously their own lives. They're all just recently graduated. Shun's applying for medical school. So they all have their own jobs and things, and so for them to put aside, some time for us to do and help and travel, like Jared's flying up from LA next weekend to help at Sacramento, and so it's awesome to see, and they all wish that they could do more, but even the amount of work that they do is helping us tremendously. So it's pretty cool to watch.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet for sure.
Yeah, super proud.
So we mentioned, I think, at the start of the episode about kind of what's next and this, but I'm curious as to what goes into the fundraising side of it. Now, I'm not going to ask you specifically for how much you're making, right? But just more so, what kind of work goes into it, because we mentioned the golf tournament, right? So, because that's what opens the door for the next opportunities upcoming. So, what goes into the fundraising side of things?
Yeah, the golf tournament obviously is our biggest fundraiser of the year, and it's an event we look forward to. But that really helps fund probably 80% of the stuff that we do. And then we just get donations. People hear about us. We get donations. You apply for some grants, that kind of thing. But the fundraising part, we probably could do more fundraising. But people just kind of hear our story and want to help in some way. And so, people, offer, money to help us. But the tournament's a fun one because it brings so many people together, and, friends of Kyle. And now we're getting people that never knew Kyle. They just know what we're doing, and they want to be part of a fun day, and they've heard about what a fun event it is. And so that's really, we'll probably continue doing that as long as we can. And then we just do, little small fundraising type things. But as we're growing and getting, a longer period of time being established, more opportunities will come for us too, for like grants and that kind of thing. So, I think the sky's the limit once those all start opening up for us, what we can do.
Right. I think so. Most definitely. I was curious because it's hard work. It's not easy, Fundraising is not fun. I think I've quoted quoted Rob multiple times here. Think about all the things.
Well, Rob saying. Is very, Rob's a good one to quote.
Yes, man full of many quotes.
Yeah.
So then, what I wanted to hear about was, as far as you said, as you grow, how do you gain your growth? Because we live in a time of social media craze, right? Are you doing it with social media? Is it word of mouth at this point? Is it?
Yeah.
What do you do to grow?
We do a lot of social media. That's really probably our biggest. And then just, we've gone and done some speaking engagements and got out there. But yeah, a lot of social media. I don't know how we would have gotten as big as we are without social media, but, and just people sharing our story. And, getting on the news helped. That really boosted us a lot. But yeah, just whoever wants to hear it, I'm out sharing our story. So, yeah.
So Jen, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing all this. The story that you've had here, where you've gone with things, where you're going, and everything in between is incredible. And the way that you've rallied back, because again, as we touched upon it, losing your kid is something that no one even wants to, yet alone hasn't, been a part of or can even imagine. So, and what you've done with it is remarkable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
It really is. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. For all the folks, you guys, make sure you guys go check out the College Hay Taylor Foundation on all the social media platforms, the website.
Yep.
If you are local or even if you're not, the golf tournament was my first year. This last year was tons of fun. I'm kicking myself. I haven't played in the last several years.
Yeah, it's the third Monday of July.
There you go.
We do it. There you go.
Exactly. So, Jen, as we wrap things up here, do you have any final, I guess we'll say, calls to action, anything you'd like to end or thanks or whatever, anything in between?
I mean, I would just say, again, if anybody takes anything away from this, is just talk about your heart health, right? Talk about symptoms, talk about, talk to your family about family history, those types of things. And so that's really one of the things that I always try to get people to talk about it. That's the only thing I can really think of. But, I appreciate you letting me come on here and share our story. And, if we can affect one person and make a difference in one person, then it's all worth it. So
most definitely.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree, Jen.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This wraps up the episode. As always, I ask you one thing only. If you're on YouTube, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Even leave a comment. I would love to hear you guys what you think about Jen and her story, all those things. And if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any audio platforms, make sure, hey, chances are if you enjoyed this, send it over to a friend. They're probably going to enjoy it too and even learn something. It's really important stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, see you on the next one.